Hey there. So this morning I gave you guys, I actually gave one yesterday and then gave another one this morning, but I gave you a couple of pictures of the Eiffel Tower. They were quite different. And if we'd been at school, I would have done the same type thing. Actually, as you would come in class, the beautiful picture of the lit up Eiffel Tower, modern day, just fabulous, would have been on the smartboard as you came in. And then we would have had a little discussion of what it was, what it stands for, what it symbolizes, and many of you all, everybody knew it was the Eiffel Tower, of course, but most of you knew that it was supposed to be kind of a symbol of love. It's supposed to be a symbol of the city of love, the city of light, romance. I mean, you know, people all over the place want to go to Paris, to the Eiffel Tower to, like celebrate their honeymoon and stuff. It's the city of romance. And so that picture is that Eiffel Tower is very iconic for that. And then I would have switched it, and I would have switched it to the wartime photograph during World War II of Adolf Hitler standing in front of the Eiffel Tower, because that picture represents another time in history. And I had you get back with me on what that picture made you think or how it made you feel. And I'm real interested, and I'm really happy to say that many of you felt the way I did. I know the first time I saw that photograph, I was shocked. I was like, I really, I almost got goosebumps. It was just so wrong to me. It felt like the most big conflict in one photo of that beautiful, iconic, happy thing in the Eiffel Tower, and then you've got that horrible dictator monster in front of it. And I just didn't, I didn't know what to think, but I knew that I didn't like the way it made me feel. And many of you have written to me and told me the same thing. And you've come up with some really interesting things to say about that. So I'm glad. And so today, right now, I want to do a little introduction. This week, we're going to be focusing on the World War II in France. And this is kind of a new unit for me. I think I've only been doing it for about 2.5 years, maybe 3. I'm not exactly sure when I did it. When I started it, but I do know exactly when it did start. And it's a cool story, and I have everything here at my house, and I thought I was going to introduce it to you kind of the same way that I would do in the classroom. So, it began with the poetry project. Let's see, I got to turn this thing around or do it this way. There we go. Poetry project. Everybody see, it looks like a key, okay? And the name of this poem is actually Sarah's Key. Well, we do the poetry project early. It's usually one of the first things that we do. And so I had a girl named Danielle, and this was her project. And so she got up there, and just like you guys did, she started to read her poem, and I thought, Sarah's Key. Now that's weird. I knew that it was familiar to me, but I didn't know why. I didn't know exactly why. And my wheels started turning literally as she was reading her poem. So I walked over to the little bookshelf that is always next to my desk, and that's actually my personal private books. And I walked over, and damned if I didn't have this book on my bookshelf, Sarah's Key. And I'm like, whoa, okay, hold on. So I pulled the book off the shelf, and all this while we have poetry projects going on. I was completely consumed by this for some reason. I wanted to see how it all added up. So I looked at the back of the book, I read the back of it, and I'm like, wow, I never read this book. It's on my shelf. First of all, I had no idea where it came from. No clue who gave it to me. I didn't buy it. I have no idea. It ended up on my shelf one day, and I thought, wow. So after I heard Danielle do her poem, and I pulled the book off the shelf, I read the back of it, and I was completely hooked. It's exactly my favorite genre of book. It is a historical fiction, which means it's based on real history, but it's been kind of fictionalized with characters and dialogue and stuff. So I took it home, and I'll tell you what, it changed me. It changed my life a little bit. I have to admit, this was a really interesting book. So incredibly thought-provoking. I learned so much that I did not know, had no idea. I cried like a baby throughout this book. It is so hard to read, so poignant in many, many ways, but a wonderful book. And after I read it, I knew I had to teach about it. I knew I had to, because I knew if I had gotten, 40 some odd years into life, I'd been teaching about the Holocaust, and I didn't know about this stuff, about what went on in France. I didn't know about it. And I figured if I didn't know about it, that probably none of you, or if any, maybe only a couple people knew about it. So I kind of made it a pledge that I was going to make a whole unit on it. I found out there was a movie to this book, and you know, I'm pretty skeptical because normally movies based on books suck. Well, I'm here to tell you, this is actually a really, really good movie. It really is. It's probably it's in my top 5 favorite movie adaptations of a book. I think they did a brilliant job with it. I recently showed it to my husband, and he was really speechless. And of course, you know me, I had to tell him a lot of stuff while we were watching it. But he told me afterwards he was so glad that he watched it with me. He said, because if I hadn't watched it with you and had you tell me what was going on, I wouldn't have gotten about half of it. And I'm like, well, you know. So anyway, my World War II unit has this introduction. I usually read some passages out of the book, Sarah's Key. I have some notes that we would normally take. We would either take them on our, Chromebooks, or we take them with paper and pencil. But I've kind of modified those notes a little bit to make them a little bit more complete. And I'm going to be sharing those with you tomorrow. And they're very, very important. Okay, they really are. And they give you the backstory that I want you to know about what the hell happened in France with Hitler during World War II. Because the French kind of kept it on the down low. Everything that happened there in their country, they were not proud of. They shouldn't have been. But they also just didn't talk about it. For many years, it was kind of a secret. And that's kind of what this book is about as well. So I want you to have the facts. Then I am going to show you the movie Sarah's Key. Now, I'm going to have to do it in kind of an awkward, weird way. It will come to you probably in 3 or 4 different parts from YouTube. But it's something that you can watch on your own. I believe it's on Netflix. In fact, I'm pretty sure it is. So if you have Netflix, it won't cost you anything. But we'll do it together too for those of you who want to watch it with me, okay? It's a great movie. I've also got something about the Nazi leader who was in charge of things over there, Klaus Barbie. That's also an interesting story. So we've got several things with our World War II in France, and it kind of revolves a little bit around Sarah's Key, around the notes that we're going to be taking, the information that you're going to get that will help you watch that movie and watch it with knowledge, okay? Because I want you to watch it with a trained eye. And then I'm so bummed because if we were at school, we would be able to do our Sarah's Key artwork, okay? Actually, it's not Sarah's Key, it's World War II. We have World War II in France artwork. I brought a bunch of it home and I showed it to my husband. And I'm probably going to get some of it set up for you, but I don't have time to right this second. I'm going to have to lay it out a little bit, but I will. I'm going to videotape some of the things that I've kept throughout the last couple of years because my kids have done a brilliant job with their artwork. I know many of you love it whenever we do an art project because it gives you a chance to shine in a whole different way. And so many of you are skilled in that, where I am not, but so many of you are. So anyway, I'll show you some of those, okay? So we've got a lot of wonderful things, and you'll learn a lot. You'll learn a lot, and it's really just because I learned it just a few years ago, and I knew then that I was on a mission to make sure that my students also knew about what kind of atrocities went on and how things went in France during World War II with the Nazis. So before I leave you though, I do want to show you another book, and this is my very favorite book of 2019. And I'm an avid reader. I always have a book going. And I read this book by Kristen Hanna called The Nightingale. And it is so fabulous. It's about the same subject pretty much. It's a little different from Sarah's Key, but it is such an amazing book. And it's actually going to be made into a movie. It's being made into a movie, and it's supposed to come out this Christmas Day, December 25th of 2020. But I'm kind of thinking that all this stuff in our world is going to change that a little bit. But believe me, when it comes out, I'll be there. It's a wonderful book as well, and I can't wait for the movie. So anyway, I'm going to be passing those notes on to you, and we're going to dive in. Okay? Have a great afternoon.